6. Oh, what a long day. Thank you. I waited till the last minute to post that I was going live, so. Oh, it's been a long day. Long day. So I put in the chat, I put in the link. If you go onto that link that I put in there, it'll bring you into my basement. And if you want, I can put you on screen or just have you hang out in the basement. It's up to you. If anybody would like to do that while the live stream is going. Oh. So tired. Anyway. I'm Sandra, and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're a newcomer, please know that you're welcome here no matter what. Whether it's your birthday or whatever day it is of sobriety, it doesn't matter. Glad you're here. I put in the description the book we're reading, the name of the story we're reading, and the page number. Just so you know. Please be mindful in the comments. No judging each other. No harassing each other, please. It's a judgment-free zone. I thought I saw him coming. What are you doing, Ryder? Ryder! Ryder! What are you doing? Come here. Oh. This is my hefty 30-pound dog. Huh. I don't know if he weighs 30 pounds or not, so I just guessed. I guesstimated, huh? What are you looking at over there, huh? What are you seeing? You seeing my pink monkey? Yeah? What? All right. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, Continue to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And so we are reading the big book of AA, and we are reading Flooded with Feeling on page 369. I'm in the 4th edition, so if you don't have a 4th edition, it's probably going to be on a different page. But it's all right. I'm going to read it anyways, so you're free to just listen if you want. If you want to be in the chat, you can be in the chat. If not, don't worry. I completely understand. Not everybody is out or speaking out about their sobriety. I do because it's something that AA taught me to do. But anyway, my eye is itchy. I petted my mom's cat. So we are reading Flooded with Feelings on 369. When a barrier of God collapsed, this self-described agnostic was at step 3. When I first came to AA, I thought everyone had drunk more than I had, that everybody had gotten into more trouble, but I kept coming to meetings, and after a while, I began to hear the beginnings of their stories. I came to realize that I was on the same road. I just hadn't gone as far yet. Hey, Tony. I had my first drink in my senior year of high school. That first night, I slipped out of the window so my parents wouldn't hear me leave. There were 4 of us, and we only brought 4 bottles of home brew. I never made that mistake again. The next few weeks, a bunch of us went camping and we brought cases of beer. We finished it all. The others drank a lot too, but I was the one who woke up in the middle of the night and started wandering around the countryside by the light of the moon. I was the one who walked for miles searching for something. I know now what I was looking for. Unlike the rest of them, I wanted another drink. I had a great time that summer between high school and college. It revolved around drinking, and football, drinking and hunting, drinking and playing pool, drinking and driving. Nothing really bad happening, but it could have. I nearly got arrested. A friend just missed being shot. The car I was riding in stopped just before it crashed. I don't think most moderate social drinkers remember so clearly the night they had their first drink. I'm sure that very few of them make that date into an annual celebration by getting as drunk as possible. It was in my second year of drinking that I started saying that if you can still feel your face, You're not drunk enough. In my third year, I drank homemade peach wine, and when it was gone, I had some whiskey that night. I vomited in a blackout. Soon I found that I didn't get as sick on vodka. Drinking vodka was like something out of science fiction. I could be someplace for one moment and instantly transported to somewhere else the next. I could never seem to find that happy balance. I remember going to a party. I started drinking, and suddenly I could talk to anybody. I was having a lot of fun, but I kept on drinking. Soon I could barely walk. A friend drove me home that night, but I sometimes drove a car when I was too drunk to walk. I became a teacher and didn't drink too often for a while. When I did drink, I almost always got drunk. The teachers could the teachers would get together a couple times a year for a poker party. I usually didn't drink anything. One time I did, and I made a fool of myself. I decided that drinking just wasn't fun anymore. I quit. My cure for drinking was isolation. I would get up, go to work, come home, watch TV, and go to bed. It got to the point where I couldn't remember anything good that had ever happened. I couldn't imagine anything good ever happening in the future. Life had shrunk down to an endless, awful now. The depression became so bad that only medical treatment kept me from offing myself. After 7 months, the doctor took me off the medication. I wasn't suicidal, but I wasn't very happy either. A new teacher came to my school, and I invited myself over to her place for a drink. I remember telling her as I lifted the glass that this might not be such a great idea, but I believed it's worth the risk. As casually as that, I began drinking again. At the winter break, she went to visit her boyfriend. I was alone again. 2 days before Christmas, I went to a party. I wasn't going to drink because I had driven there, and I knew that drinking and driving was a bad idea for me. I wasn't feeling particularly good or bad, just a little uncomfortable because I didn't know most of the people there. I was sitting on the couch one minute and up drinking a glass of wine the next. There was no conscious premeditation at all. This is the point when many people say, and I went on drinking for 10 more years. Instead, an odd thing happened. A few days later, a teacher me and came up to me at work and said that she was an alcoholic. Move, dog. And that she was going to AA. She had never seen me drink, so I didn't know what made her do that. The next day, I asked her how often she went to meetings. once a week? I asked. No. She said that she had been going nearly every day for almost 6 months. That seemed a little extreme, but I thought that maybe if I went to a meeting with her, it might help her out. Besides, I was lonely. Halfway through the meeting, I had the strangest idea. People were introducing themselves as alcoholics, and I had the urge to do the same. This was peculiar because I wasn't, of course. Later, my friend asked me what I thought of the meeting. I said that I didn't really know. It was only much later I realized that for the first time in years, I felt that I belonged. The next day, we went to another meeting, and this time I did say I was an alcoholic. I went to the third meeting by myself. I was nervous. I felt as if I were about to jump out of my skin. I did something that was amazing to me. Before the meeting, I stuck out my hand and introduced myself as a newcomer. I had someone to talk to. I calmed down. From time to time, I would tell the truth. I said in a meeting that I was afraid to get a sponsor because I was afraid he might ask me to do something. I left that meeting with a phone number. I called it, and sure enough, my new sponsor started leading me through the steps using the big book. I called him every day. I told him that I just didn't want to be an alcoholic. He said it didn't matter what I wanted. The question I had to answer for myself was whether I was or I wasn't. He even suggested that I could try a little controlled drinking if I wasn't sure. I knew I had never been able to do that. I didn't have to do any more research. All I really had to do was review the drinking I had already done. I remember telling a friend years ago that I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a stopping problem. We laughed. It was true, but there was something else going on. Something that never occurred to me until I came to AA. I didn't just have a stopping problem, I had a starting problem too. No matter how often I stopped or for how long, I always started drinking again. After not drinking for 3 months, I was on the phone with the friend who had taken me to the first meeting. I was complaining to her about problems at work and how my sponsor didn't understand me. Later in the conversation, I mentioned that even when I described myself as agnostic, I thought maybe something was watching out for me. She asked, "Isn't it about time you made a decision?" I knew where to look in the big book, and I had been careful to avoid it until then. I turned to the third step prayer and quietly read it to her over the phone. Nothing happened. I didn't expect anything to happen. Then, for some reason, I turned back to the words. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. They echoed in my mind. Something happened, a barrier collapsed. Without moving or speaking, I was carried away on a flood of emotion. Yet at the same time, I was completely aware of myself and my surroundings. I could hear my friend's voice asking what had happened to me. I couldn't answer. I still can't explain it. I know that I took the third step, turning my will and my life over to a higher power. That night, because I began writing a fourth step inventory the next day, and I continued to write until I did the fifth step with my sponsor. Soon, I had a list of people I had harmed. I talked about each of the amends with my sponsor. By the time I'd started setting things right with my family, I began to feel a lot better. More than 11 years later, it's hard to recapture the feelings of that night. What do I believe as a result? I can say that doubting God's existence was no barrier at all to a spiritual experience. Also, I can say that having such an experience didn't lead me to any certainty about God. Alcoholics Anonymous gives me the freedom to believe and to doubt as much as I need to. I do know that my life is different now. I haven't had a drink since I came to AA. I have fewer resentments and I don't spend much time thinking about the past. I found that my experience can be of help to other people. I have come to believe that hard times are not just meaningless suffering and that sometime or something good might turn up at any moment. That's a big change for someone who used to come to in the morning feeling sentenced to another day of life. When I wake up today, there are lots of possibilities. I can hardly wait to see what's going to happen next. I keep coming back because it works. So, y'all know I love the highlighter. Thank you, my sponsor, for that. She got my highlighter happy. So I started drinking, and suddenly I could talk to anybody. I was having a lot of fun, but I kept on drinking. That was me. Boy, was that ever me. I could literally just go and talk to some stranger on the side of the street. It didn't matter. I had no fear, I had no care, and I did whatever I wanted to. That was as a teenager. Then as an adult, because I already knew how I felt when I had alcohol, I knew I'd be invincible until I smacked my face on the stove. But I also would go and ask people for drinks or money or scrounging up all the cans and bottles and change and everything I could find just to have that next drink. It was a never ending problem. But that was my mindset as in my worst days of my alcoholism was trying to figure out how I was going to get that next drink, or if I hid enough for another day, or if I had drank it all the day before, or even did I even like sleep? Did I stop? Because I was at those stages of where I couldn't tell if I was sleeping because I was sneaking that alcohol and thinking I was sneaking. I was sneaking, fooling myself with what I was doing. But never, no matter what I did, it wasn't good while I was drinking, ever. I always ended up doing something stupid. And then I highlighted, I was sitting on the couch 1 minute and up drinking a glass of wine the next. There was no conscious premeditation at all. And there was no premeditation in anything at all. And that's the truth. Because I couldn't think far enough to make any predictions in what I was going to do. Nobody could either. I remember telling a friend years ago that I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a stopping problem. I knew I had a drinking problem. I knew my whole life that I could end up the alcoholic. And then I hit my 30s, and that's what happened is I became that alcoholic self that I had fought to never be. And I don't know if I had friends tell me I had a drinking problem, but I know my family did. And to me, I didn't have a problem. Then I know that I took the third step, turning my will and my life over to a higher power that night, because I began writing a fourth step inventory the next day, and I continued to write until I did the fifth step with my sponsor. It took me quite a while to do my fourth step, and a lot of it had to do with my childhood and all the stuff that my sister and I had been through, and trying to figure out how to make amends for that. And so that's where my sponsor came in. I've had my sponsor since my second meeting, and so she kept nagging me about it. Yes, I'm using the nagging word, but I know it was with good intentions on nagging me about it, because I procrastinated that for as long as I could. I did not want to do step 4 at all. I didn't even want to start step 4. But I did step 4. And a lot of it, like I said, had to do with my childhood. And having a sponsor there to explain to me in what ways on what I wrote down was I in fault of, and I needed to make amends for it. No, I didn't write everything down. I've known what they are, and I have been making amends ever since I started AA. and it's with my family, my friends, and it's just, there's nothing on that table for you, you ding dong. There's no food there. I'm talking to Ryder if you're wondering. He thinks you have to be up here with me, huh? But my sponsor told me what I needed to do and different ways of getting the ones that I can't do because obviously they're not here anymore. But making amends to the people that I hurt the most, my family, some of my friends, but mainly my family, because it wasn't their fault that I was drinking. It wasn't their fault that I chose to walk away from them. And that's what it is another part of AA teaches you that maybe your family didn't leave you, you left them. Yeah. Because you get into that little bubble of the drink is all you can think about. And that was me. That's all I ever thought about was drink. How am I going to get this next drink? Where's the next bottle coming from? Who's going to buy it for me? How am I going to get it? In what way am I going to get there to get it? That was my mentality while I was drinking. It never stopped until my friend, I was always telling him that, I quit drinking, but I don't know what's going on. And, he's like, well, meet me at a meeting. And if my friend watches these videos, thank you. You saved my life for just suggesting AA and meeting you at AA. Thank you for that. But without having the meetings, having the people in those rooms, I don't know where I would be right now. And having my friends and my family to be behind me and encouraging me to keep going and don't give up. Because giving up the sobriety won't be good. Nothing good will come from it. And I already know that because I've already done that before I got here. And without a sponsor and without AA, who knows where I would be, if I would even be here anymore. And I thank them a lot for sticking it out. Even those that have gone out and come back. Don't give up. Every day is worth it. And you have to want it for the right reasons. But how I got rid of my resentments, or making my amends. So my father passed away, my birth father. I didn't know how to feel about it, so I had mixed. I cried, but then I was mad. I cried, and I was mad. But I took all of my all of my inventory, I asked my sponsor, do you think burning it would that be suggested? And she said, you do it however you want to. And so I took those pages that I wrote and I burnt it, and it's gone. Those are gone. And I'll never forget what our father did, but I can't keep holding on to it. And so that's where it went. And I grew up with a dad that loved me and took care of me, and he didn't have to. He supported us more than our father did, so, and he's still my dad. But it's a short reading today, and my eyeball is itchy. Probably because I got a cat hair in it, which means that I'm going to be itching my eye all night. Allergic to cats sucks. Because he's such a furball and he loves being loved on. And his name is Lubby. A Lubby cat that wants to be Lubbies. But anyways, hope you guys had a good day. Tomorrow's Friday, and then I have to work. Work is work. 20 hours, here I come. But anyways, just know that if you're struggling, you're not alone. If you're battling addiction of any kind, make a phone call, do a search. There's Alcoholics Anonymous everywhere. There's NA meetings everywhere. But just know that you're not alone, and you can make it. You just have to want to for the right reasons. But anyway, you're welcome, Tony. You're welcome, Lil. I love you guys, and that's my sponsor, my sister. I love you guys, and I hope you have a good night. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know their difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it.